Hi everyone, it's Jan from Jan Plans Things, and welcome to my review video for this week. Last week I put forward on my Instagram stories which notebook would you guys like me to review from the gigantic collection of notebooks I have at home, and the most highly asked for one was these beautiful notebooks by Archer and Olive, and followed closely by Scribbles That Matter. So I'm going to do these ones first, and then I'll get to Scribbles That Matters a little bit later on. So I can see why that these are so popular. So Archer and Olive, a lot of you have seen, have a fantastic Instagram account where the owner paints these gorgeous paintings that look a lot like this, and she's managed to imbue her work onto the covers of her notebooks. And these this one, for example, has gorgeous gold foiling on the front, and this one here has the paintings that she does and does so well. So I've actually not opened these notebooks yet, which makes this review a little bit more genuine, which is going to be good. And so full disclaimer, I bought both of these myself because they were so pretty. So I'm just going to go through maybe this one for you. So this one, these notebooks, I'm going to slide this up, I don't want to damage it because it looks pretty. These notebooks have 160 GSM paper, which is double that of my LT, and that's pretty cool because but I hope that means that it has really good paper for watercoloring. So a lot of you are interested in this one basically because of the amount of how thick the paper is. I'm having a bit of trouble here. How embarrassing. Should have prepared one earlier. Okay, here we go. Tight. Sorry, I should not talk at the same time. Concentrate on doing this. It's because I don't want to ruin the packaging. Okay, here we go. Success, applause. So here's the back of the journal, and this is like in a soft pinky white color, and it's got the same print all the way on the back as well. So on this one there is nothing on the back design. Both of these are the 112 page dot grid journal. So this is 112 pages, the LT has closer to 240, so obviously that's probably where all the thickness went into. So if when I open this, you can see, let me move this one out of the way as well. And this has, ooh, lovely, really lay flat binding, so it sits flat on the table. And then it's also got two lovely satin ribbons here, which matches the LT, unless you buy the bullet journal version of the LT, which has 3 ribbons. But I think this is really nice, and it actually matches quite well with the cover as well. And if you look at this one has peach ribbons to match the peach color of the cover. So I love that little attention to detail that she has there. And if you look at the paper, it's really, really nice and bright white. And you can kind of hear the thickness of it as well. So I'm going to switch to the front. Okay, so the front of this book, it has, this book belongs to Archer and Olive, and the website there. It's like a really nice thick paper there. And then it goes straight into the bullet journal pages. So it doesn't have any index pages or stuff like that, but I probably prefer that because I find that it means that I can just draw up the index pages myself. So I'm going to grab my LT. And you can see here how much more white the paper is compared to the LT paper. So the LT paper next to this one actually looks almost yellow cream instead of a warm cream. It's just very, this paper is just a really very bright white color, which is actually really nice. So what I'm going to do, like last time, is I'm going to use a couple of materials and see whether or not they bleed through. So I'm going to use the Pentel Pocket Brush Pen, which is like my ultimate test here. And then, wait a minute, I've got a cat. Just give me a second. Sorry about that, guys. Cats always want to be the center of attention. So back to what we were talking about before. We're going to be testing this paper with a couple of my most used products. So on top of the Pentel pocket brush pen, I'm going to also be using the Sakura Micron, and then also this is the Tombow Fudenosuke hard tip pen. And then we've also got the Fine-Tech Golds, which you guys have been enjoying me using. Watercolors, I'm using my Daniel Smith palette today. This is my personal palette with some squeezed out paints. And we'll see how the paper reacts to that. And this is probably the amount of things I'm going to try and use in this thing, so don't mind me, and let's get started. So because the Archer and Olive notebook has some really pretty florals on the front, I thought I might try doing some florals. I'm decided to try and do it in a different style to what I normally do, so I'm not using the Micron to do the strong outline. I'm doing it all in pencil and layering the watercolor, mainly because I'm quite interested in the fact that the paper is really thick, so that I think that by doing it in this style where I have to layer a lot of color and pigment on, I can actually see how much the paper actually buckles while I paint it on. So the method of doing it this time around is I'm going to do a really simple light wash of the purple first, and then I'll slowly build up the shadows by just going over it with the same wash again. And while I was doing this, I was actually really impressed, because at this point in most of my other videos, you would probably see me going back and picking up little excess paint from little rivets that I would get through the paper, but this paper wasn't buckling at all. So I was like quite shocked with that, because it was acting as if it was like proper watercolor paper. So I didn't actually have that problem where I was worried about how the paper would buckle, and so I was just concentrating on laying down the colors and not having to worry about that extra step that I would have done in the LT or even in the Mossery from last week. So I was really quite pleased with that. So what I'm doing now is I'm almost dipping it directly into the pan. So I've got a really concentrated mix of the purple, and I'm just going through there and just painting in a few of the details. And at this point, I think I've put around 4 or 5 layers onto the little flowers. So there's quite a lot of paint on there, but I'm finding that the paper is holding up really, really well. And the fact that the paper is so white means that the colors really pop. And I had to adjust my my technique a bit, because it was holding the watercolor so well. It wasn't like the LT where you got the really hard edges with the paint. So I found this when I was painting with watercolor paper as well, that you do have to adjust your technique a little bit depending on the paper that you're using. The paper itself, because it's so thick, you do get the little give in terms of the fact that you don't get as many pages in the other notebooks. But I feel like if you're a painter, this might be something that could work really well for you because of how resilient it is. I think it would work pretty well with like acrylics and gouache as well. And I just, at the end of that, I just layered on a whole bunch of paint and it didn't even react. So now I'm using the Pentel pocket brush pen, and that's because it bleeds through almost every notebook that I have because it's quite strong ink. And now I'm trying the Tombow Fudenosuke hard tip pen. So I'm interested to see how they will react to the paper, because I reckon if it can survive those two, then we're looking at something that's pretty great for people who want to do more artistic journals. So I'm just going to add a little bit of gold as well to finish off. Okay, so that was quite interesting actually, because this is like the first notebook that I've painted in a while that didn't actually buckle at all. So I don't know if you can see, it's still extremely flat. So that's pretty awesome. And let's have a look at how the bleeding went. That's amazing, isn't it? Look at that. Almost no bleeding of any of the paints and even the Pentel pocket brush, which pretty much defeated the Mossery and always defeats the LT. So all of that was fine, and I really went for it with these words to see if I could get it to bleed by pushing through, and that's also fine. So if you're a painter or you like layering a lot of water on, I think that this paper can hold up to quite a little bit of quite a bit actually of abuse. So it's none of my pens have really ghosted at all. You can barely see any ghosting on that, and definitely no bleeding, so that's absolutely fantastic. Just a couple of small things. The book is a lot smaller, as in narrower than a couple of the A5s that you might be used to, so that's something to take into consideration. There is a pocket at the back to put things in, and the other and it does have about half the amount of pages that you would be used to in an LT, for example, mainly just because the pages are so thick. There isn't any numbering in the corner either, so I don't know if that will affect any of the decisions, but I'm okay with numbering it myself. So I'm really pleased with this. This probably has reacted one of the best, I think, to watercolors I had before. I mean, like, I purposely drew something that was extremely layered, so I just kept on putting paints on to see if it would buckle or bleed. I can feel on this side a little bit of roughness in terms of buckling of the paper, but I think overall this is actually fantastic. It's a really excellent journal if you want to be using it for watercolor. So I think the owner of Art Journal uses it a lot with gouache, which is a water-based paint, and she doesn't seem to have any problem with it, and I can definitely say that I didn't have any problems at all with this today as well, and it reacts a lot more like watercolor paper than the LT does. It does, when you wet the brush and then you try and then you go over it a bit, the paint can still lift off the page, which is really lovely if you're used to using that technique. So I'm extremely pleased with this, and so I reckon I'll be using this notebook a lot more actually, and I might even consider using it as my main bullet journal, because it is such it does react so well to watercolor, and the pages are so nice and bright and white, which makes the colors really pop off the page. So overall, I hope you found this this review useful. I'm going to close that up to show you it's lovely, all fixed up, and I hope to see you guys next time. So those were the Archer and Olive dot grid notebooks. And if you have any questions, just put them in the comments below, but I will see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye.